I'm Derek Olthuis. Welcome to this week's episode. We're about to get radical, getting in the water with some big trout to film them and learn. Stay tuned. A few of the biggest things that I learned while underwater was first, how shallow big fish will come to feed when there's a hatch going on. And second, how bad our flies look in the water. Bugs move so much more and look completely different. And so I'm going to talk about that when I go over my setup a little bit, how I rig my flies to make them look more natural. All right, I wanted to run through my setup here quickly with you. I've got two rods. I've got an H3 7 weight, 9-foot long rod with a 12-foot long leader. It's straight 15-pound Maxima with a small streamer tied onto the end. Kind of a prototype streamer that I'm playing around with. And then I've got a Recon 10-foot 3-weight that I'm gonna fish chironomids on. And the reason I'm fishing this rod is I'm fishing pretty light tippets to big fish, and I want that extra flex in the rod. That extra foot, and it being a 3-weight really gives me a lot of flex to protect those lighter tippets and make sure I don't pull the hook too hard and tear it out of the bigger fish's mouth on these small little hooks. I definitely overset. Oftentimes when I set, I really give it and have a tendency to break fish off. So for me, this rod is gonna be huge. And I'm fishing a chironomid on this under an indicator, and I have it rigged up so that the indicator is not pegged, but the fly will actually slide, so I can fish it with some movement. So I actually put a peg on there, so as I strip in, the chironomid can come up, but the indicator doesn't move too much. And I'm gonna see if that extra movement will get the fish to commit. I'm big on movement. I think movement is far more important than color. And so I'm gonna try and give it that added movement to see if I can entice some fish into eating and really committing to the fly. I'm on about a 13-foot long leader with this guy, tapering down to 4x, I believe, and might fish 5x later depending on the size of fly that I'm using. I'm tying both my streamer and my chironomid on a loop knot so that they can pivot and hinge in the water. Let's go fish, see what we can get. I switched over to a New Zealand indicator. If you don't know what that is, it's just a little piece of yarn to dangle the fly under. It's a lot more delicate than a thingamabobber or a slip indicator, and if you're fishing in places where fish are pretty spooky, it's a really good option. Pretty shallow along a lot of this bank, and there's a lot of weeds, and the fish come in and cruise on that. So I put that New Zealand style indicator on there just to be a little bit more stealthy. I just saw fish down the bank cruising, so I'm gonna run down and see what he's doing. It's heating up a little bit, and I'm just starting to see the first chironomids pop. And so I know that there's gonna be chironomids underneath, just above the bottom, maybe 6 inches to 18 inches, just kind of hovering, getting ready to hatch, just kind of coming off the bottom. And so I'm going to try and imitate that along these weed beds. You can see that I lead this fish by quite a ways because he's so spooky. He was cruising along the shoreline feeding in a weed bed, and I had to cast out 25 feet or so in front of him and hope that he would come by the fly if I was even going to have a shot at him. And you can see from the video that he comes up,
eats something right before he gets to my fly, and then he comes up, and right here he's going to inspect my fly, looks at it, and then turns away and swims past it. So after that, I kind of switched tactics, put on a streamer, caught a couple of smaller fish, and called it a day.
These fish are absolutely crushing my streamer.
Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. We will see you next week, and hopefully you learned something by watching this video. Peace.